is Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. Now in this game, you're playing as a Sky Pirate. And as a Sky Pirate, you're gonna be sending out different crew members onto the island in order for you to gather some loot. To do so, you're gonna play 1 out of 6 cards from your hand. We all start with 6 cards. We all start with a certain amount of gold. Actually, it's listed here on the reputation board. So here I am playing as the Black Pirate ship. And as the Black Pirate ship, I start off with a reputation of 9 with a 2-person game. I also have this midshipman board that's on the island as well, and this is the stormy side, which means there's more play confrontation. There's more of the take that actions on the stormy side of the board. So I'm starting off here with 9 gold, as denoted here with the doubloons, 5, 3, and 1. Those are the 3 different currencies shown here on my left side. On the right side, we're playing against green, who's starting off with 10 doubloons. Now, first thing I'm gonna do on my turn is play a card from my hand. I'm sending a crew member onto the island. So the first thing I'm gonna play, or the first crew I'm gonna send out, actually is going to be, how about Cabin Boy? We'll start off with Cabin Boy, and this one says, if this is the leftmost character on the island, I'm gonna gain 3 gold. Bottom effect says, don't gain any loot tokens. Now you'll notice here that every character also has a different phase in which that ability is being activated. So when you actually play a card, it's gonna be played face down at first. So I'm gonna play this face down. Green's gonna play this top card face down. So even if we play a card, we're actually gonna reveal cards at the exact same time. So, reveal. Now the higher number, in this case green with 26, is gonna go to the right. So midshipman is at 20.5, which means the cook from green is gonna go to the right here. And on the left side is gonna be my card, Cabin Boy, with a number of 5. And this space also says, for specifically a 2-player game, it says if your character is the only character ranked 20 or less, you must place it on this space. So I'm gonna do exactly that. Cabin Boy goes right there to the left of the midshipman. Now we get to the juicy part of the game, which is activating effects. This is where all the magic happens. This is where all of the fun stuff happens in the game. So I'm gonna go from left to right. Daytime abilities activate with the lowest number first. The Cabin Boy says if this is the leftmost character on the island, gain 3 gold. So I'm gonna do just that. 3 gold from the pile goes straight to me. And then we're gonna go to the midshipman, which has no daytime effect. We go to the cook, which also has no daytime effect as well. And then the game's going to take a reverse. We're gonna go from daytime to now dusk, or golden hour, as us photographers would say. Not even as a photographer, as anyone who appreciates the beauty of light an hour before sunset. We're going to dusk. So we're gonna go from right to left. The cook goes first now, and it says, unless you first gain a hook token, gain a second loot token from the current day. So since this is day 1, green is gonna take not a hook. Since we're reading this effect, it says, unless you first gain a hook token, so we're gonna take something else in the meantime. Each loot token also has an associated effect. So for example, the yellow chest acrylic token right here, this one says gain 4 gold plus 1 gold for each of your map tokens. The hook says to discard the character that gained this token, so we don't want that. We're gonna try to avoid that for now. And the barrel says you may discard this token in order to gain 2 rep and also gain 2 gold with this anchor ability at the very end of all these voyages. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the yellow chest token, and I'm gonna activate the cook's ability. Let's get rid of these. And I'm also gonna activate the cook's ability, which says, unless you first gain hook token, which I didn't, I can also take a second token from the tray. So I wanna leave black with this hook symbol, that way they eat up this effect and discard that character. So instead, I'm gonna take this barrel. So now the cook is coming back from the island and joining the green ship, and that is the end of the dusk phase for green player. Midshipman activates. It says if a character directly to the left of the midshipman, which is going to be my character, that character's opponent, which is green, is going to remove a loot token from the current day. So in this case, green is gonna remove the last loot for the day, and that means I am left with nothing for the Cabin Boy. With that, Cabin Boy is going to return back to my ship, and that is the first crew member that I've gained that has come back to me. So that is pretty much what you're doing on your turn. You're sending off a crew member to the island. They're going to activate different abilities according to the phase of the day. Nighttime phase, we didn't talk about here yet, and I don't think any of my cards here are nighttime abilities, but nighttime abilities will activate every round. So with that, you're sending off a crew member, they're activating different abilities, and then as they come back, they're also grabbing loot, and they are joining your ship. We're gonna repeat that for 4 days in this first voyage. Let's go ahead and do a couple more. So this next card I'm gonna play is, how about, you know what, I didn't gain any loot tokens during my turn, so I wanna take some of that back. Let's go ahead and play the thief card. So we're gonna play this face down, and then green of course plays their next card, reveal. We have 17 for the brute, and we have 23 for the thief. So thief is gonna go to the right, brute is gonna go to the left. And you know it by now, sun phase Day phase is going to activate first, so the brute activates first, and it says discard the rightmost character on the island, which is going to be my thief. That character's owner does, however, gain 1 rep. So the thief goes away, and it's going to go to my graveyard, which is going to be played face down. In turn, however, my reputation is now going to go up by 1. So I'm going to go from here, switch spots over to with purple. So rep in this game has 2 main purposes. First, it's going to act as a tiebreaker. We all have the exact same cards in our hand, so it's pretty likely that we're going to play the exact same card. Rep is going to break that. Whoever is highest on the reputation track is going to be, it's going to have first priority on the island. And secondly, reputation also acts as your income marker at the end of the voyage. So originally I started with 9 income, but because I've gained reputation, I'm now going to gain only 8 coins on my next, at the end of this voyage. So from there goes our daytime abilities. We're going to go back to dusk, and midshipman now activates. In this case, I'm going to be able to choose this time. So I don't want green to have a saber, so I'm going to take this and get rid of that, which means the brute is only left with taking a barrel token. We're gonna go ahead and switch on over to the dusk phase. Brute has no dusk abilities. This comes back, and they also take 1 barrel token as well. That is the end of day 2. This token goes back to the end, and let's go to day 3. So by this point, halfway through the voyage, you're starting to understand which cards that the other players are using. And in this case, we know that the cook and brute is being used. We know the other 4 cards. So if we look through our other cards that we have remaining, you already know what these 2 do. We have these 2 remaining. We have the governor, which says discard all characters from your ship, gain 1 reputation for each character discarded this way. That's the governor. And then we also have the merchant. Discard either 1, 2, or 3 identical loot tokens from your ship in order to gain 1, 4, or 9 gold. Well, they do have 2 barrels. It's very unlikely they're going to play the governor card at this time because for the most part, rep doesn't really matter as much, especially in like a 2-player game. So for that, we're going to skip governor. We're going to eliminate that for now, and I think they might possibly play the merchant or the cabin boy. So my goal is to get rid of whatever green's plan is and to use the brute card. So this is going to be the card that I'm sending off to the island. We'll play that face down. Green plays their 3rd card face down, and we reveal at the exact same time. We have cabin boy, so it's a 50-50 chance here. We have cabin boy and brute. Brute is going to go over here. Cabin boy is going to go over here. Unfortunately, my plan didn't work out as planned. So our AI here is going to gain 3 doubloons for cabin boy. We go to the brute. In this case, unfortunately, the midshipman is not going to get discarded, but rather the brute is going to get discarded instead. So brute's going to go here to my graveyard, and instead I also gain 1 more reputation as well. So we'll switch off with blue. We go back to dusk. There's no character here this time, but for this time the cabin boy says to not gain any loot token. I think in this case I still get 1 loot token, so I'll take the barrel, because this one is going to allow me to gain 2 gold at the end of this voyage. I'm not going to take any amulets because this amulet ability says to gain 1 gold for each reputation to the right of yours. I am unfortunately at the highest point of reputation, so I'm not going to gain any gold at all. Now with that, these 2 go back, and we have 1 more turn left. So for me, again, there is no reason for me to use the governor because I only have 1 character on my ship. And on top of that, there's no point in me gaining any more rep because I'm already maxed out. So governor is going to be out for now. Merchant, discard 1, 2, 3 identical loot tokens. I only have 1, and I don't want to gain 1 gold just for that. So my only option really is to play the cook. So I'm going to play this card. Green plays this one. We reveal 1 last time, and boom, we have the thief versus the cook. Thief is going to go to the right. Cook is going to go also to the right here. Daytime abilities, take 1 loot token from an adjacent player's ship. I am getting whooped by green. So my only barrel token is going to be taken over. And then we go to dusk. The cook is going to go unless you first gain a hook token, gain a 2nd loot token from the current day. So that's pretty cool because I'm going to take a map token, and I get to also get a 2nd token. This is perfect because the map tokens, I'll show you in a second, are going to provide a nice little bonus when you have 2 of those tokens. Now with that, we have the midshipman. Again, no character is over here, so our characters come back. Cook comes back to me. I have the cabin boy and the cook in my ship. They have the thief, the brute, the cabin boy, and the cook all in their ship. Let me go ahead and move this up a little bit. Okay, so now we're at the end of the voyage, and now we're gonna activate all of our anchor abilities. Now currently none of us have anchor abilities, but I do wanna show you a really good one that would be prime for a green right now. This is the barkeep. The barkeep not only gives you 1 gold at the end of every single phase for night, but the anchor ability also says to gain an additional gold for each of your barrel tokens. That'll be 3 gold if green had a barkeep card. So we're gonna skip all the anchor abilities for our characters. Instead, we're gonna activate our loot tokens, which also have anchor abilities as well. This chest token says to gain 4 gold plus 1 for each of your map tokens. So that's gonna be 4 gold in total. That's 3 and 1, 4 gold for them. And then next, the barrels. The anchor ability says to gain 2 gold for each barrel. I have 2, 4, 6 barrels over here, which means it's gonna be 5, 6 more doubloons for green player. It's not looking good for us, but I do have 2 green map tokens. And in this case, it says if I have more map tokens than any other opponent, to gain 8 gold and discard your maps. So these are gonna go, and in turn, I also gain 5, 6, 7, 8, which is, it's not too bad, right? We're gonna discard everything that we used, everything that we scored. And the last thing we're gonna do is to actually input our doubloons into our treasure chest dials. So I have 5, 10, 16, 19. So I'm gonna put in 1 and 9. So there goes that. And then green scores instead 5, 10, 15, 18, 19, 20, 23. 23 doubloons is gonna go straight to the green treasure chest. So we have 23. And that is a typical scoring round for Libertalia. It's not too bad, right? You have about a 4-point difference here in this specific example. Whew. Okay, so that is some gameplay of Libertalia. What do you think about that? Hello everyone, welcome back to the Wolfpack. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. Well, that's pretty much every one of my videos, always trying something new. But I wanted to just show you a little bit of gameplay, and I kind of want to do this for future reviews. Not to only give you some context, some pretext for the review, but ultimately there's nothing better than seeing some gameplay, right? So, with that said, I have some thoughts about this game. Let's go and start off with what I don't like about it. So I played this game 3 times with 2 players and also with the 3-player count, and it is drastically better with more players. Just adding 1 more player, it's so different. For instance, with 3 players, this midshipman tile here, it's gone. This is totally gone. And then also for our loot tokens, we would populate 1, 2, 3, 4 tokens, which means you have a bigger variety of tokens to choose from as well. Reputation also matters more because now you're competing with 2 other players in order for you to have tiebreakers, which will happen much more often with more players since everyone has the exact same starting hand. So ultimately, if this was on my shelf and we were to play a 2-player game, which is the most frequent player count that I play at for most of my games, if this was sitting on my shelf, it wouldn't be my first choice to play because, like I said, the choices, the interactivity you get between the cards that you're playing on the island, because this is ultimately a really big mind game, all those decisions become amplified with more and more players. At 2, it's okay. And I feel like there are just so many other better options for 2 players that this wouldn't be my first choice at the 2-player count. Now, I haven't played at 4 or above, but I feel like it would really shine at 4, even 6 players. I think this is a really great option for having a 6-player game because I don't really have many 6-player games, and if they are, then they're most likely party games. This fills in a very unique gap in that if you have 6 players at the table and you don't want something as heavy as Scythe and you don't want a party game, this is right in between that. So this might fit for a group in that specific scenario. That's the one thing that I feel like is the ultimate highlight of Libertalia, which is playing mind games. So when you're playing cards at the island, like I said many times during the playthrough, everyone has the exact same starting hand. With that in mind, you can kind of deduce and figure out what everyone else is playing. You can figure out what they have in their graveyard, and understanding when you can play cards, when to save cards, when reputation would actually matter in order to be a tiebreaker. All of those decisions become so much more interesting with higher player counts. At 3 players, we were like laughing and smiling every single round because we're trying to read each other's expressions and see if we can predict what each other's gonna play every round. And it was happening all the time until this is like the second biggest kind of downer for me for Libertalia, until you reach a dead end, and it happened every single time we played this game. So with Libertalia, you are prone to have a dead hand. So let me show you a specific example. I actually saved these set of cards specifically because this is what we actually had. Let me briefly run you through these 6 cards. Okay, we have the Scout. The Scout acts as a substitute, so you'll play this card and then you'll bring it back and switch it out with something else. We have the Captain, which allows you to advance to the rightmost space on the reputation track and lose 1 gold for every position that you've gained along the way. We have the Watchman, switches a loot token with the current day with the next day. We have the Surgeon, returning a character from your graveyard to your hand. The Explorer, allowing you to gain a map token and gain 2 rep. The Apprentice, using a stun ability of a character on your ship. So let's say this is the very first turn. So if I wanted to play as a captain, I would gain 1, 2, 3 gold and go all the way to the right. There's not much incentive for me to move reputation, so there's one option there. I have the Watchman, allowing me to switch a loot token from the current day to the next day. Well, let's say out of here, the one that would sabotage people the most, I guess, would be the relic token to lose 1 gold every night. So the Watchman does give me some options in case I want to give someone a relic, but that's highly unlikely in a 3-player game because then they still have, a couple other options. So we'll just leave that to the side for now. We have the Surgeon. There's no point of playing this card yet because there's no card in our graveyard. So we're gonna put that off to the side along with the Captain. We have the Explorer. If you gain a map token, gain 2 reputation. This looks pretty good. So we'll keep that to the side. We have the Apprentice. Use the stun ability of a character in your ship. We'll have no characters in my ship at this moment, so we'll put that off to the side. And then we have the Scout, which just gives us a little bit of information. There's, again, not too much incentive for me to play this card at this time. So that is my biggest gripe about this game, is that those 6 cards that you have in your hand, you're more likely to use 2 out of the 6, especially in the beginning of your turn. So that's the thing for me, it's like, why do you have a hand of 6 cards if you're limited to just using 1 or 2 on your turn? And this happens for like the beginning of every single voyage. Like, I really appreciate how there's a lot of depth added to the pirates, but they're so situational that you don't really get to use them as often. And I automatically think of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! You know that cards that have these dead-end effects, these very, very specific case scenario effects, they likely don't run well in your deck at all. So those are the 2 major downsides for me, in that the player count really matters in this game, and that you very, very often going to reach a dead-end hand of cards, or you're limited in the cards that you're going to use, especially in the beginning of your voyage. Now, what I did really enjoy in this game is that there is an option for you to have more take-that mechanisms with the stormy side, and you also have ways to even change out the effects of the loot. So I do like how some cards invite different player styles. For example, here we have the Gambler, losing 1 gold for each of your loot tokens now, versus the Quartermaster, to gain 1 gold for each of your loot tokens, but at the very end, during the anchor phase, Gambler's going to gain and the Quartermaster is going to lose. So these are total opposites in that sense. And having that player style, having that player choice, that's nice. So those are my thoughts of Libertalia, giving it a 3 out of 5. Would it be my first choice to take out from a shelf and play? Probably not. If I wanted to play a 6-player game that was light, that was not as heavy as Scythe, that isn't a party game, then yeah, this would easily fill in that gap, but pretty much only that gap. I wouldn't play this at 2 players with the amount of other 2-player choices that I have. The mind games that you're playing as you're figuring out who's playing which card at what time, and the engine building meaning like the cards that you're starting off in front of you that are going to combo off each other. That, I think, is the most interesting part about Libertalia for sure. But overall, it's good. It's worth a shot. I think if you want a very light game to teach, if you want a lot of variety in both, take that mechanisms and friendlier mechanisms, then this game might be a good fit for you. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed the review. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Libertalia, and also if you like the whole, gameplay intro that I put in the beginning. You may include those snippets in future videos. And with that, thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see you all in the next video.